There are tons of business podcasts to choose from, but only one has the stamp of approval. Kristin Stampini is South Florida's leading real estate entrepreneur and your trusted source for everything real estate.
I would like to welcome my listeners and thank you for joining us today for another episode of my podcast, The Stamp of Approval. I'm Kristin Stampini, co-founder of the Stampini Platinum Real Estate Group with RE/MAX in Boca Raton, Florida. I'm also a certified real estate coach with Craig Proctor and the owner of Global Virtual Real Estate Assistants. You may have heard us on the radio. I'm also a real estate investor, a national trainer and public speaker, and a certified inside sales agent trainer. The Stamp of Approval podcast was launched to share and educate other realtors and consumers and other business owners across North America by sharing value and content into each and every episode that we have. To my listeners, and making sure as well as sharing my experiences and triumphs and failures and my strengths throughout my entire life, to hope that my audience are able to expand their knowledge on everything real estate, business, sales, and mindset oriented. So I'm so excited to have Erik Eastham here today with Eastham Law Offices in Boca Raton, Florida. And it's a family-owned business practicing for over 30 years and specializing in estate planning, probate, asset protection, trust and estate, administration, business organization, real estate, contract and transactional law. Attorney Eastham prides himself in creative estate planning and business organization, often saving, winning, and protecting his clients and their assets while maintaining a personal relationship with each and every one. You know, Eastham also believes in educating his clients and surrounding the community on the importance of proper planning. So I've known, and I'm so excited to have him here today, I've known Erik for years, he and his family, and personally have used him for years. Now, as we talk about this episode here is really going to talk about wills and trusts. Now, as you know, and as I've shared in my podcast, that you know, I had a hardship in my life after running restaurant business for 18 years, and you know, at a high level in management. And I moved to Florida knowing nobody but my mom. Okay, pretty much. And I started my life over and, you know, basically was bankrupt and broke and didn't know what I wanted to do with my life when I moved here to Florida. And so, you know, my mom said, hey, you know, why don't you look into real estate? And I said, oh, no, I'm not, I'm not a salesperson or anything like that. And then basically I have been able to take that, open 5 different businesses now that I own and that, you know, are doing very well. So I never even thought of basically asset protection or wills and trusts and things like that until after I started over again. And then I met Erik. And actually Erik is the one who I just trusted him when I met him. I felt I felt he was a really good person. And so I just went in and said, hey, I want to go in and talk to you about asset protection. So welcome, Erik. I'm so happy and excited to have you here today.
I'm happy too.
Thank you. So talk to us about, I don't know if you remember back then when I came in to talk to you.
Years ago.
Yeah, it was years ago. But you made me feel really comfortable, but you also made me feel like, you know, you were in my best interest, not just after my dollar, which I didn't feel at all. And because I just started, you know, buying properties and I just started having some money and, you know, and this was, I don't know, probably 7 or 8 years ago, 6, 7, 8 years ago. And so anyways, tell us about what the importance is and why people, you know, really need to look at it like I did, because I had no idea.
So the number one importance is what we're truly talking about is we're talking about the guaranteed events in life, which is death and taxes. It's not anything that anyone can avoid, but they really do avoid talking about it and thinking about it. And that is the reason why everybody needs estate planning. The myths of estate planning is that it's only for the uber rich. It's for trust fund babies that are living on yachts in the Mediterranean. And the truth of the matter is that could not be farther from the truth. Mainly because if you think of it from this point of view, if the uber rich do not have an estate plan and it ends up costing their family lots and lots of money, guess what? they're still going to have lots and lots of money, even without an estate plan.
That's right.
I mean, we hear about famous people passing away without estate plans all the time, the most recent one being Aretha Franklin. She had no estate plan. Sadly, I believe she also had a child with special needs. And you don't leave people like that money. But
wasn't like Michael Jackson too?
I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah.
They just become these little statistics that I get to put into a flyer. But if you really think about it, those with a lot to lose are the ones who really need estate planning, because if they take a hit, if their family takes a hit, they may not be able to recover from it. So the myth that it's only for them, the other myth is that it's only for people that are old, and they get confused between estate planning and elder law attorneys, which for most of the time they're practicing similar things. But in truth, it's actually the people who have more at risk who need the estate planning. People who have lived their entire life, the only risk we're talking about is how much are my kids going to have to pay in order to get these things done the right way. Whereas people who have dependents, people with minor children, they are leaving a minor child behind, and that minor child needs a plan. So if you have a parent who says, well, that's fine, my spouse and I, we took $1 million each in term policy. It costs us $20 a month. So if we pass away, my child will be a multimillionaire. Well, what have you really done? What you've done is a minor cannot take money. A minor's money will be overseen by a judge through a court process called guardianship, and we will have to ask that judge for every little part about that money and how it will be used. And the judges, at least in Florida, I can tell you what my judges usually say is, well, the child can decide that when they're 18, which means your child is going to receive lots and lots and lots of money when they turn 18, which is usually a bad thing. Do you want them going to college in a Ferrari, or maybe skipping college altogether so that they can travel the world? Probably not. So a good estate plan would tier that money off for those children and says, you know what, when you're 18, maybe you get a little bit, or maybe you need to get a college degree, or maybe a little at 25, a little bit at 30. These are the things that a good estate plan will take into consideration.
So I know, thank you. And so I know when I did it, number one is I thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to spend thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars to create a will and a trust. And why do I need to do that? You know, I don't have kids. Okay. I wasn't fortunate to have kids. But, you know, why do I really need to worry about that? And I know a lot of other people that think about it and say, oh, well, I'll be gone. I'll be dead. You know, why do I have to worry about it then? So talk to us about that.
And it's a fair comment to say, who cares what they have to pay when I'm gone, because I'm gone and I don't care. And I do have clients with that. But the other problem is that believing that estate planning is only planning for your demise, and it's really not. Good estate planning is preparing for you first and foremost. So a good estate plan is not just a will, because a will doesn't do anything until you're actually gone. We say it's not worth the paper it's written on until you're gone. But a good estate plan includes additional documentation such as powers of attorney and living wills and healthcare surrogates. Who talks to that doctor if you are unable to talk to the doctor? If you have a desire to not be kept on life support, you better say so. And you might want to say so more than the form that the hospital is going to throw in front of you when you're coming in on an emergency, because they always try, sign this living will, sign this living will. And a good power of attorney as well. So if something were to happen to you, and this isn't just people who are married, even if they don't have children. I have clients that also say, well, I'm single. What does it matter? Right. I said, well, you know what? If you're married, you should still have those powers of attorney in place, but chances are the doctor's still going to talk to your spouse. If you're single, that doctor's not talking about your medical history with anyone. No one.
Right.
And so where are they going to get a decision from? The doctors are simply going to do what they think is best. I mean, they have that oath that they all say that they're going to do what they can to keep you alive. But when you're stable and they say, we need to know what to do, who are they taking that direction from? So if you're single, you at the very least should have a power of attorney. And if you want to make sure that your money that you've been working for your whole life, if you want to make sure that your money's not going to be subject to judge supervision, you should also have a revocable trust, because it says these are the people I trust and they will take care of my money while they are taking care of me. Wow,
you just covered a lot of great content. So first is, you know, and I was one of those believers. What is, you know, the average, let's say, just about, costs of different things.
You did ask that question. I didn't answer it, did I?
No, that's all right. Because I asked so many questions, I just come back to it. Like, what would it cost me today compared to what is it going to cost me after I'm dead?
So today's prices, it is different all over the country. South Florida, because of our elderly population, is actually very competitive when it comes to estate planning. I can tell you that our firm does offer flat fees, and I give those flat fees before I ask the client how much they're actually worth. I do need to know. I can't give you a good plan if I have no idea what you own. But I do tell the fee up front, and the fees can range from anywhere from $1,500 to $3,000.
Which is, I thought, to be honest with you, okay, anytime you say attorney or lawyer or whatever, I'm thinking thousands and thousands and thousands.
The most I've ever heard an attorney charge was actually in my mother's family's from a small town up in New York called Corning. That's where Corning Glass comes from. And I have met with estate planning attorneys up there. And because there's only one or two in town, they'll charge $6,000 or $7,000 for that. Yeah. But down here, there are a lot of us to be competitive. Now, you can find that lawyer down here who's going to charge you $10,000. You can also find that lawyer who says, hey, I'll do it for $500.
Yeah. Get what you pay for.
Buyer be wary.
Yeah.
You want to make sure that they actually have a focus on it. But the consideration when we're talking about pricing, this is what it should be. It should be, I'm making incredibly important decisions, not just for my loved ones, but for me. What is that worth to me? If you make no plan whatsoever, it will go through court, and the fees start at 3% of the gross estate. So if you have a house and it's $300,000, we're not offsetting by a mortgage. That's going to be $9,000 right there. And then the last thing.
Oh, okay. Let's stop there because that's good. So basically, pretty much almost going into probate, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so if I'm going to pay whatever, $1,500, $3,000 ish, whatever it is today, but if I die and I don't put anything together and I didn't do anything, they're going to take all the assets, right, at 3% plus hourly attorney fees and, all sorts of fees and fees and fees.
That's right.
So just the house alone, you're talking maybe $10,000 if it's worth $350,000, let's say. But then that's not even it. So that's just $10,000 plus you've got all your other assets, right? So let's say I'm worth $1 million. So you're going to take
3%.
3% of that plus hourly that you're going to charge me.
There's definitely going to be an hourly when you're talking about an estate that's that large, or if there's going to be multiple people who are interested in it, because 3% is going to be the bare bones. Let's get this done. But as soon as somebody wants to rear their head and create extra work for the attorney, the hourly is going to kick in.
So that's crazy. Right? I mean,
it's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money. And the other thing is, when I'm thinking about wills and things, okay, too, because I know I'm kind of jumping around, but they're also important, is I've seen people that have had to make medical decisions that have been really hard and really didn't know what their parent, let's say, wanted. Do you really want to put that on yourself? So with what I want and my wishes, right, in a will, or should I just leave it to my husband or somebody else who they have to now live with it?
Well, you can't just leave it to your husband, because if we learned anything from the Terry Schiavo case, and for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, most I believe do, Terry Schiavo was on life support for more than 10 years, and she was married, and her husband said, let's pull this plug, and her parents said no. So even though the spouse, many people will say, well, I'm the spouse, I choose, right? Not necessarily.
That's a great point.
Those parents came in and they said, we don't want our daughter to pass away. And they spent tons and tons and tons of money on those legal battles. And my guess is even more money on just the medical costs of keeping her around.
And what did she want?
Who knows?
Right. So that's the big thing. If I want it, then that's what happens, right? So that's what's being set up in my will. So the other thing is once you have kids, is that important? Why is it important then to set up wills and trusts before?
So the important thing with children is that you cannot leave children anything. They are not legally allowed. They're considered incapacitated. You can't give a child a bank account for them to be in control of. So the court will overlook that. And then the one thing that really catches parents off guard, are parents of adult children who they all still consider to be a minor. I'm talking about kids who go to college, and I do get a call almost every fall from a frantic mother who says, my son is in the hospital, the doctor won't tell me what's going on, I'm going to sue the doctor, I'm going to sue the school, blah, 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 blah. The truth of the matter is, your child is an adult, and that doctor knows that because he's an adult, he has privacy laws to follow, and he doesn't want to be sued by your kid when he tells you that they were drinking or smoking or whatever it was that they were doing. So even though you have the idea of minor children's important, if you still have dependents that are adults, especially if you're sending them to school and paying the rent and paying all those things, get them to sign a power of attorney.
Yeah, great advice. Okay, so just give me, one other thing. When should I update it? How often should I look at my, my trusts and my assets and my wills and, get with my attorney and, how often should we change it?
I'd say about every 3 to 5 years is worth a look, but it doesn't necessarily mean that there's going to be a change. When should you call the lawyer? As I offer my clients free consultation, and I say you need to call me when big things happen. Are you buying something big? Are you selling something big? Has somebody been born or married, or has somebody passed away? Those are reasons to simply call and say, am I good? Does my plan take care of this? Some people want to do it once a year. Then you have clients who don't do it for 15 years and they say, oh, well, none of this is right by then. But just because you want to have a checkup doesn't mean that things are going to change. For most people, it usually doesn't change.
How about when I have family, like when I add another child or something like that, or have my first child?
So I try to have that consultation with my clients ahead of time, and I will do my best to take care of kids that are yet to be born in the event that you don't get around to getting your estate plan updated. But still, even though it does provide for an unborn child, I like to have that child's name in the document. And you know what? Families are very, very different these years. I do see some attorneys say, to my heirs. And there's some people who have heirs that they don't know who they are.
Yeah.
So it's important to be very specific on who is entitled to what.
Okay, that's very good advice. So give me, wrapping this up, give me a couple of steps that we should look at in doing in the future here.
So the steps should be, first and foremost, do you believe in insurance? Most people do. So people buy life insurance, people buy flood and fire insurance to protect their home. That's what estate planning is. It is a cheap insurance policy because you only have to pay the premium one time. So if you're a believer in that and you say, okay, now let's do a little bit more, you need to pretty much evaluate your life, determine what's important for you, who's important to you. And if you determine that I don't want to be stuck on my own somewhere, get an estate plan. If you know that there's people that you love and want to take care of, get an estate plan. And if you have, if you're an elderly person, for example, don't just take care of yourself. If you've got children who are adults with their own children, give them that last bit of parental advice and say, you need to protect your kids too.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. So how much does a will cost? What is the range of a will?
A will is about $350.
$350?
It's nothing. It's nothing.
Oh, my gosh. And what is in a will?
So all a will does is it's going to say to the court, when I pass away, this is who I would like to be in charge. Just because you nominate someone does not mean they will get it. It does mean that they are given preference. And then it says, and this is where I want my things to go. That's all it does.
Wow. But $350? That's it?
$350.
Okay. And you said that asset protection is
what?
How much?
Oh, well, asset protection comes into a lot of different things. So it really depends on what you want. When we talk about trust, a revocable trust, which is very different than a lot of different types of irrevocable trusts, but everything has its own price point. When we talk about revocable trusts, wills, power of attorney, what we're talking about is a foundation, and everybody needs a foundation. Before you build your house, you put the foundation up. If you start with the walls, they will fall down. So once the foundation is in, if you need asset protection, and not everybody does, not everybody owns a home, not everybody has children, But if you have an investment property or if you have a large liquid cash account, whether you want to choose an irrevocable trust, we try to steer away from them. We try not to handcuff our clients, or LLCs, or you can get the tank of asset protection. I call it the tank, which is a family limited partnership. We say family limited. That's because most people choose family, but it doesn't have to be exclusive to family.
Wow, awesome. And so if somebody mentions the Stamp of Approval podcast, they'll get a free consultation with you?
Absolutely.
Awesome. And that's what I did. So I reached out and got a free consultation with Erik, was introduced to him by somebody else. And he sat down and just looked at everything we had and just, talked to us, made us feel really comfortable. And so how can they reach out to you, Erik?
So the best way is always by phone. Please call my office anytime, 561-395-6800. Again, it's 561-395-6800. And our web address is Eastham Law Offices. It's plural, and Eastham is spelled east like the direction, ham like the food. And if you're just a person who really needs to only send text messages or emails, the best email is emjeastham@easthamlawoffices.com.
Thank you. And I definitely want to just give you a testimonial. I mean, myself as a client, my family as a client, my friends as clients. So it's definitely worth reaching out to Erik and having a conversation with him. I thank you, all my listeners today, and we will talk soon. Thank you.